I spent years asking the wrong question in love. I kept wondering, does he like me enough? Am I enough for him? Did I say the right thing? Was I too much? And I never stopped to ask the question that would have made love easier to find. So stay with me, because at the end of this episode, I'm going to show you how one different question can change who you attract, how they show up for you, and how love feels from the inside. This is the one shift that I've seen change everything for me and for the hundreds of women I've worked with, especially when it comes to finding the love you want. Welcome to Project Loving Myself, the podcast where we dive deep into the messy, beautiful journey of self-discovery, self-love, and healing. Welcome back to Project Loving Myself, the podcast that brings you back to yourself through real self-love. Today, we're talking about something so many women do in love without even realizing it: waiting. Waiting for him to call, waiting for him to decide, waiting to see if he really likes you, waiting to find out if you're enough. And when you're in that waiting energy, you can spend so much time analyzing how someone feels about you that you forget to ask how you actually feel. So in this episode, we're going to unpack why so many women unconsciously audition for love, how waiting to be chosen gives away your power, and the one question that changed the way I experience love. And stay till the end, because I'm also going to give you a simple self-worth check-in you can use the next time you find yourself overthinking someone's text, silence, inconsistency, or mixed signals. Because this one shift can change everything. Not just who you attract, but how you allow yourself to be loved. So here's the thing. I spent most of my dating life waiting for some sign that I was special enough, wanted enough, chosen enough. And honestly, I didn't even realize I was doing it. I thought I was just dating. I thought I was just trying to understand how he felt about me. I thought I was just being patient. But underneath all of that, there was one question running my love life. Does he want me? Not, do I want him? Not, is this good for me? Not, do I feel good around him? Just, does he want me? And that one difference cost me years and a lot of heartbreak in between. Because when your whole focus is whether someone wants you, you stop paying attention to whether they're actually right for you. You overanalyze every text. You read meaning into every silence. You replay every conversation back. You try to become more understanding, more patient, more accommodating, more lovable. And before you know it, you're not choosing love, you're auditioning for it. So this is the first thing I want you to notice. When the question is, does he want me? You give away your power before the relationship has even begun. And for a long time, I didn't know how to stop doing that. So when love kept disappointing me, I did what a lot of women do. I pulled away from love completely. When relationships didn't work for me, and so many of them didn't, I didn't know how to make sense of it. I thought I'd given enough, and still, it didn't last. So eventually I did what a lot of women do when love keeps hurting or disappointing them. I stopped trying. I threw myself into work. I built things, I achieved things. I told myself I was focused on my career. I told myself I didn't have time for love. I told myself I was better off focusing on something I could control, something that actually made me feel good about myself. Because love, clearly that was not something that I could control. And at that time, that decision, that choice felt empowering. Like, fine, I'll just focus on me. But if I'm being honest, it wasn't really healing. It was coping. It was me trying to feel powerful in the one area of my life where I did feel in control. Because love just made me feel helpless. Now, there's nothing wrong with focusing on your work. There's nothing wrong with building your life. But sometimes we call it, I need to focus on work, when what we really mean is, I'm scared to want love again. Sometimes we call it being busy, when what we really mean is, I don't know if I can handle being disappointed again. And sometimes we call it, I'm focusing on myself, when what we really mean is, I don't know how to let someone in without losing myself again. So that was the second lesson for me. Pulling away from love can feel like power, but sometimes it's just protection. And protection is understandable. But protection is not the same as healing. Because healing didn't happen when I gave up on love. Healing started when I finally began to choose myself. Now, that shift didn't happen in one dramatic moment. There was no big cinematic scene, no lightning bolt, no moment where I suddenly became this fully healed woman who knew exactly what she deserved. I wish it was that easy. It was a lot quieter than that. It happened slowly through the work I was doing on myself, understanding my patterns, healing what I was carrying, looking honestly at the beliefs I had about love, learning what it actually meant to love myself. And little by little, something inside me began to tell a different story. I started to feel like I was worth choosing, not because someone else had chosen me, but because I had started choosing myself. And that is such a different energy. Because when you don't feel chosen by yourself, you go into love with others hungry, hungry for validation, hungry for reassurance, hungry for someone else to make you feel enough. When you begin choosing yourself, you enter love differently. You show up differently. You're still open. You still want connection and you still want to be loved, but you're no longer begging the relationship to tell you who you are. So here's the third thing. The moment you start choosing yourself, love stops becoming proof of your worth. It becomes an experience you get to choose. And that is the energy I was beginning to step into when I met my husband. But I'll be honest, I still wasn't fully there yet. Now, when I met my husband, even with all that work behind me, I wasn't completely healed. I still had patterns, I still had fears, I still had that part of me that didn't quite trust love. So I pushed him away. I created distance in the relationship. I tried to convince him that I wasn't what he would want. The more I pushed him away, the more he stayed. Not in an intense, dramatic, chasing way, but in a steady, consistent, silent way, a calm way, a way that made me feel like, oh, this is different. And that steady presence created enough safety for me to finally start asking a question I had never really asked myself before this. Is he good enough for me? Now, I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I don't mean it in a place of walls, coldness, or superiority. I meant it from a place of finally knowing my own worth, a place where I could ask, does he have what I need in a relationship? Does he show up for me the way I want him to? Can he love me the way I need to be loved? Do I feel safe being who I am? Do I feel more like me in this relationship or less? It was the first time I had approached love from that place. And honestly, I felt like I'd been given permission I didn't even know that I needed. Permission to choose, not just to be chosen. Now let's pause here, because this is really the core of the episode. The question that changes your love life is not only, does he want me? It is this enough for me? Is he enough for me? And when that question changes, everything else in your life starts to shift. If there's one shift that transformed a woman's love life more than any other, I truly believe it's this one. Moving from, am I enough for him, to, is he enough for me? Again, not in a cruel way, not in a judgy type of way, not in a let me put people through impossible tests kind of way, but in a grounded, self-loving way. Because when you walk into love wondering if you are enough for someone else, you hand them all the power before the relationship has even begun. You start auditioning, you perform, you shrink, you overgive, you overthink, you become agreeable, you try to be what you think they want. And yes, you might get chosen, but not necessarily by someone who is right for you, Because you weren't choosing, you were just hoping to be picked. And this is one of the deepest patterns so many women carry without realizing it. We were raised in a culture that taught us to wait to be chosen, to be desirable, to be selected, to be picked. The fairy tale was rarely about the woman choosing from her own truth. It was about being the one he picked from all the rest. Think Cinderella. So we learned to make ourselves as choosable as possible. Instead of asking, is this what I want? We asked, am I what he wants? And that quiet inversion, so subtle, so deeply conditioned, shapes everything about how we move in love. So here's what's happening. When you're trying to be chosen, you perform. When you know you can choose, you become more honest. And honesty is what makes love feel more safe, more real, more mutual. Now, I want to share what this looks like when it starts happening in the women that I coach. Here's the shift that I watch happen again and again in the women that I work with. Women come to me carrying so much baggage, broken hearts, repeating patterns, relationships that looked promising and then fell apart in familiar ways, betrayal, emotional unavailability, the exhausting cycle of giving everything and receiving so little back. But when we do the work together, we release the relationship baggage that has been quietly running the show in the background. We build self-worth from the inside out. We untangle the old beliefs about love and what she deserves. And then at some point, something clicks for her. She realizes, I've been focusing on the wrong thing. I don't have to convince someone to see my value. I don't have to overgive to earn effort. I don't have to wait for someone to choose me before I choose myself. And when that flip happens, everything changes. Because it's not just a mindset trick, it's an internal reorientation. Am I enough for him? 2, is this enough for me? And that ripples through every part of your love life. Who you attract, how they show up for you, what you tolerate, what you stop explaining away, and how the relationship feels from the inside. So this is what I want you to take from this. This flip is not about becoming some hard person. It's about becoming more clear about your worth, what you need, what kind of love actually feels good to you. And now, as I promised, I want to give you a quick self-worth check-in that you can use whenever you feel yourself slipping back into that whole pick-me energy. So the next time you find yourself spiraling over someone's text, silence, inconsistency, or mixed signals, I want you to pause and ask yourself 5 questions. Number 1, am I editing myself right now? Am I trying to be chosen, pretending, waiting, trying to say the perfect thing? 2, have I asked myself if I actually want this? Do I actually want this? Not if they want me, but how does this feel for me? Do I like who I'm becoming in this dynamic? Do I feel safe, calm, respected? Question number 3, what am I ignoring because I want this to work? And this one's kind of powerful because sometimes we see the red flags. We see that there are a lot of things wrong with this relationship. Inconsistency, emotional unavailability, maybe even lack of effort. But because we want to be chosen so badly, we just kind of explain it away. We make excuses for it. 4, what would I choose if I already knew I was enough? If I thought I was just this amazing catch? Now, this question brings you back to your worth. Because when you already know you're enough, you don't beg for crumbs and you don't call that love. And 5, what is the most self-loving next step for me? Maybe it's asking for clarity. Maybe it's slowing down or having the conversation. Maybe it's about walking away from the relationship or coming back to yourself before making that next move. So here's your check-in. Am I trying to be chosen? Do I actually want this? What am I ignoring? What would I choose if I knew I was enough? And what is the most self-loving next step for me? Those 5 questions can interrupt the pattern before you abandon yourself again. And now let's bring this all together. If this episode is landing because you've realized you've spent years waiting to be chosen, Or you keep finding yourself in relationships where you give too much and receive too little? Well, that's exactly the kind of work I do inside my soulmate coaching program. If this is something that calls to you, book a relationship clarity call with me. We'll look at the pattern, what it's been costing you, and what needs to shift so you can stop auditioning for love and start receiving it instead. You'll find the link in the show notes. So let's bring this all together. For years, I thought the question was, does he want me? The question that changed everything for me was, do I want this? And eventually, is this good enough for me? Because when you spend your life waiting to be chosen, you're giving someone else the power to decide your worth. And that is not how to live your life. But when you choose yourself, you behave differently. You stop chasing mixed signals. You stop shrinking to keep someone interested in you. You stop ignoring what doesn't feel good just because you want this relationship to work so bad. And you stop treating someone else's attention like proof that you are lovable. You are lovable, and you don't need that to be proven. So if you remember one thing from this episode, let it be this. You don't need to become more choosable. You just need to become more honest about what you're choosing. If this episode spoke to you, share it with a woman who needs to hear this. Post your biggest takeaway and tag me so I can repost you and celebrate you. Now here's a quote to carry with you this week. You alone are enough. You have nothing to prove to anybody. And that's from Maya Angelou, someone I truly admire. Now, my love, you are not here to audition for love. You are here to choose the kind of love that chooses you back. You are loved.